Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursday. We're very glad you're with us for the first and third Thursday of every month. Today is September 16th, 2021. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window do not appear in the recording. For those people, if you have questions, for those on Zoom, if you have questions throughout the presentation, please just enter your questions into the chat box. We'll be using the chat box a lot during the session. And for those watching on Facebook right now, you're welcome to enter your questions into the comment field. I am monitoring that feed. We are going to review one or two resumes today live online. You're welcome to submit your resume using the chat box, but please remember that your information will be published on Facebook and YouTube. So if you want to delete your header information, you can just delete that off and then you can send it. You can, by clicking on the chat window where it says file, that little blue arrow is, you can send it to Carol and she'll have it, or if you want to send it to everybody, you can send it to everybody. That's up to you, but that's the best way to do it. And like I said, we'll review one or two resumes at the end of the session if we have some. All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I started a second website, careerusa.org, to help people outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search that you may not know. It is available on Amazon. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007, and I'll tell you about our program that we have coming up tomorrow morning at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIT crew. And this is a great way to practice your interviewing skills. People spend a lot of time on resumes, a lot of time networking, a lot of time on LinkedIn, but do you spend time practicing your interviewing skills? This is a great way to do it, and it's totally free. We'll put some information in the chat box here in just a couple of minutes. So our speaker today is Carol Brickell. She's a certified professional career coach. Carol started this when we started doing resumes over a year ago. She was our exclusive speaker, and then we've been mixing in some other people as needed. So Carol, thank you for being back with us today, and it's all yours.
Great. Thank you, Jeff, and it's great to be back, and welcome to the audience today. And let's see, stop sharing. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here, and let's see, there we go. My screen share and get it into slideshow mode. And we do have the opportunity to share somebody's resume. So I don't think I've received any yet. So please go into chat and send me a copy of your resume and we'll review it at the end of the session. So you get some free coaching. And as Jeff mentioned, you can take off your contact information off the top of your resume if you wish to remain anonymous. And even if you've shared your resume once before during one of our sessions, maybe you've worked on it a little bit, you can share it again today. So we like to do that, and people really enjoyed that part of the session. Good. And we will be using the interactive features of Zoom. So I'm going to be opening up my chat box. So when you see me looking over here, I'm just looking at my second monitor. I'm going to open up the participant box as well. Let's see. Got a good group of participants here. Encourage you to open these up because we do like to keep this fun and interactive. Good. All right. And so to get us all warmed up using the chat function, go ahead and open up the chat function and respond to this question. I'd like for everybody to go in, and those on Facebook Live, you can type in a comment as well. What's the best resume tip you've ever heard? As you've gotten advice about your resume, what's the most important, what's the best advice you've gotten? And I'll be sharing my favorite resume tips today, but I'd like to hear from you all, and we all learn from each other. It's funny, as Jeff mentioned, I've been doing this presentation almost every week for almost, I guess, a year and a half. And every time I do it with an audience, I learn something. So let me make sure See if people have gone into chat. I'm looking for some answers out there. Go ahead and type in the best resume tip you've ever heard. Okay. While you're doing that, I'll go ahead and share a little bit of background about myself. I do see some familiar names and some new names. So by way of background, I have over 30 years of experience working in an IT firm. It was called EDS, that was acquired by Hewlett Packard. And then I took early retirement in 2012 because I knew I wanted to help people find jobs. So the first thing I did was I got a job as a recruiter in an agency environment so I could really learn how the system works. And boy, did I learn a lot. And then also I did some work as a corporate recruiter as well. So I have both agency and corporate recruiting experience. So I have experience looking at thousands of resumes and presenting hundreds of them to hiring managers and getting feedback about resumes from hiring managers. And I've placed candidates in a variety of roles. And also, like Jeff, I've served as a panelist on the Dallas Pit Crew. And as Jeff mentioned, it's really important to practice your interview skills because it's amazing when you practice talking out loud, how it feels. I've had people in a mock interview start to answer a question and then they say, oh, I didn't mean to say it like that. That didn't sound right. Can I try again? You know, and it's really good to practice out loud. Good. And I just want to check the chat function. Okay. Good. I see some person did respond to the question, you know, what's the best resume tip that you've heard? Put the most important item at the top of your responsibilities. Yeah, the most important item that aligns to the job that you're applying to. If you've heard any other great tips, please share those in chat because we all can learn from each other. And then also, by way of background, I'm certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. So I'll be teaching to sort of a template, a resume template that I developed when I was an agency recruiter, helping people find jobs. And then I found this template is also what is commonly used when I was certified as a resume writer. And then also in various workshops around town, people use this type of format. And somebody wrote, for employment history, go back as far as you need to show you have the skills for the job that you are applying. Yes. And sometimes people put prior relevant experience and just list company names and titles, just in case you might refer to those companies, and also so that people can see kind of the full breadth of your background. Good. Okay. And also, since I've worked as a recruiter, I also keep very close in touch with my buddies at Next Step Recruiting. That's where I retired from in 2019. And this week, this is some of the hot jobs that they are recruiting for. So if you don't have a great recruiter working for you and helping you find a position, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and I can get you connected with a wonderful recruiter at Next Step Recruiting. Right now, they're looking for a variety of finance and accounting and HR people. And here are just some of the jobs they're looking for, or some of the positions that are open. Manager of Forecasting and Budget, FP&A manager, senior accountant, they have several positions, and a senior financial systems analyst. Plus they have other positions. I think there's a payroll position open as well. Okay. Now, a resume is a sales document, selling yourself. That is correct. Yeah, that's great. So here's our agenda today. It's a two-part agenda, and I'm still looking for a sample resume for the second part. And this is everybody's favorite part of our session, to look at a real live resume live. And so if you have a resume, even if you don't think it's perfect, you can take your contact name information off the top of it if you wish, and we'll keep it anonymous. But people really enjoy seeing a real live resume, and we can talk through it and talk about what's great and maybe a few things that could be done to enhance it. So if you have a resume to send me, please send it to me in chat, in the chat function. Good. Somebody said they're happy to share your resume. All you need to do is just click on that file button in chat. You can send it to me. And if you want to delete your contact information, you can. We'll keep that anonymous. Okay. So we'll talk about applicant tracking systems, and then I'll share my favorite resume tips. We'll talk about the concept of a one-page bio and a master resume, and then we'll talk through and actually show key components of a resume and how to format it. And then hopefully we'll have that sample resume to share. If you don't know how to send it in chat, there's also an email address you could send it to. Jeff, what's the email address that people could send their resume to?
She just sent it.
Oh, good. Okay, excellent. Got it. Okay. So I'm going to save that real quick in my folder so I can get to it real quickly. Good. So I've got that saved. Excellent. So the first thing we'll do is talk about applicant tracking systems. And these are the systems when you apply to a job online, they take the data in your resume and they read it. They parse the data and put it into a database. So you have to be careful about the resume that you're submitting online into the applicant tracking system. You don't want any special characters in it or special formatting or pictures or borders or outlines or boxes, because that can mess up the parsing process. And also, you don't want to use the header or the footer section of Microsoft Word because it won't read that data. But you do want to make sure that the keywords in your resume align to the job description. There's a tool called jobscan.co, that's correct, .co, that you can use to compare your resume to a job description. And it'll tell you if you're a 25% match or a 75% match. And then you can tweak the wording as needed. And then often in applicant tracking systems, they give you an opportunity to upload your resume as an attachment as well. And that's the version that the recruiters are clicking on and looking at. And so that version, you may want to upload as a PDF to preserve the formatting so it looks like what you want it to look like. The one that you're submitting for the system to read, it's best to have that native Microsoft Word format, and then it can read it a little bit better. And then often there's an opportunity to submit a cover letter. Now, as a recruiter, honestly, I never had time to look at those, because if I had 300 applicants in the system and I was going through the top maybe 10 or 20, I would just click on the resume. I didn't have time to look at the cover letter. However, I've seen some statistics that 60% of hiring managers do look at cover letters because they like to see how you write and see the attention to detail. So if they ask for a cover letter, it's a good idea to go ahead and submit one. And we have a simple template that we'll share in the chat box that you can use. So you may not want to spend a lot of time on it, but do send a cover letter. And the most important thing to put in the cover letter is why you're interested in working for that company. Put a statement of enthusiasm about why you're interested there, because that's something that wouldn't be on your resume. And then also maybe highlight the key skills that you have that align to the job that they're looking for. Good. And then a little more advice about applicant tracking systems. You may hear conflicting information about how these various systems work because they all work differently and each company can actually configure them differently. So you can hear different things about how they work. The main thing is just keep the big picture in mind. And when you're uploading a resume, try to keep it free from any formatting, borders, lines, boxes, special characters. And then if you have the chance to review the information that's been uploaded, just to double check it, you may want to do that. And the most important thing is to contact a person to let them know that you've applied for the job. And since I see some new names here, I'm going to ask a question. I want you to type in a number. When you apply for a job online, what do you think your percentage chance of getting called for an interview is? So when you're applying online, go ahead and type a number in chat. When you apply for a job online and sit back and wait for a phone call, what is the percentage chance on a scale of 1 to 100 that you'll get called for an interview? Go ahead and type in a number. I see people are typing in numbers. Somebody said 30% or less. Yes, it's much less. Less than 20%. Less than 10%. Somebody said 25%. Less than 3%. Less than 5%. Statistically, it's 2%. So it's virtually zero. And I found that to be true. When I was working as a corporate recruiter, we'd post a job, we'd get 300 people applying. The system would sort of sort the resumes based on keyword search, and I'd go through the top maybe 20, and I might call 5 of those people, 5 or 10. And so I found that to be true. So since your chance of getting called for an interview is very low, you have to take an extra step. So when you're applying for jobs, you want to make sure to align your resume to the job, apply, and then follow up with a person. And then you might want to ask me, what person do I follow up with? Well, if you know somebody at that company, search on LinkedIn to see if you know anybody, a first level or second level person at that company. Reach out to them and say, hey, I just applied for your senior accountant position and I meet all the requirements. I'd be grateful if you could forward my resume to the recruiting staff. And that way they would be an employee referral and you get to the higher on the stack. And that'll increase your chance to up to 50% to getting called for an interview. Or the other option, if you can see the name of the recruiter that posted that job, reach out to them and say, hi, I just applied. I wanted to introduce myself. I applied for your senior accountant position and I meet the requirements. Those words are like gold to a recruiter. I meet the job requirements. And if you can't find the name of the recruiter who posted the job, I recommend you go up a level. Don't just call any recruiter because they're probably underwater. They're trying to meet their targets. They may be on the verge of getting fired because they're not making their targets. They're too busy working on other jobs. So go up a level and look for a recruiting manager or a talent acquisition leader at that company and let them know that you've applied for that job and you meet the requirements. That will increase your chances dramatically. Does that make sense? Type yes in the chat if you think that makes sense. And if you've done that before, let us know. Okay. And now I'm going to go through my favorite all-time resume tips. The very first one is you have to check for typos and spelling errors and grammatical mistakes. Because as a recruiter, and when I talk to my recruiting buddies, we all say that 90 to 95% of every resume we see has some sort of error in it. Up until yesterday, as I was looking at somebody's resume, errors. Sometimes it's just a spacing error, but that shows a lack of attention to detail. So be sure to double check for typos. And especially as you're customizing your resume, every time you apply for a job, you're wanting to make sure you're using some of the key language in the job description. You have to proof it. And then also ensure the verbs are parallel. You might wonder what that means. That means for the jobs in the past, make sure your bullet points start with a verb in the past tense. Don't mix up verbs that end with S or ing with present tense, past tense. I see that all the time. That shows a lack of attention to detail. And I've seen hiring managers throw those resumes away. So make sure your verbs are parallel. Past jobs in the past tense. If you have a current job, most of your verbs may be in the present tense, but if you've completed a project or accomplished something, there might be a couple that are in the past tense as well. Good. I'm going to minimize the video so I can see the whole screen. All right. And at the top of your resume, you want to make sure the title aligns to the title you're applying for. A lot of times people put summary or professional summary at the top of their resume and then have a summary statement. It's stronger if you can go ahead and have a headline with a title. If you're an HR manager and you're applying for an HR manager job, put HR manager. Now, if you're kind of doing a career change and you're applying for a job where you haven't exactly had that title, you might need to finesse it a little bit. Like, let's say you've been a payroll manager. You're applying for an HR manager position, but you've never been an HR manager. You may want to put HR payroll professional or something that aligns to the job, but you don't want to falsify what you are. So that might require a little bit of a conversation with a recruiter or a career coach. But if you're applying for a business analyst job and you're a business analyst, put that at the top of the resume. So the recruiter can see, yay, this is the type of person I'm looking for. And then align your resume to the heart of the job. What do I mean by that? I mean, when you're applying for a job, read the job description and get your head around what they're really looking for. In a sentence or two, think about, what do they really need this person to be able to do? And so then you want to align this summary statement about yourself, about how you are in relation to what they want on the job. And then identify key skills they're looking for and make sure those are at the top of your resume. And I spend a lot of time with my coaching clients on reading resumes and really getting to the heart of what are they looking for in this job and aligning that summary statement to that. And here's a big one. Less is more on a resume. You want some white space. You want to make it easy to read. You do not want to have paragraphs or too much text or unusual formatting with columns that make it difficult for a recruiter to find information. Less is more. And ensure your resume is consistent with the jobs and dates on LinkedIn. Otherwise, that can raise some red flags to the recruiters. And include volunteer information or community leadership information if it's to your advantage. And what I mean by that is if you're applying to a company and they're doing some community outreach with Habitat for Humanity, and you've volunteered for Habitat for Humanity, that could be to your advantage. That shows that you're aligned to the values of that company. On the other hand, if it's an organization maybe that has viewpoints that might be different for other people, maybe not. Or sometimes I see on a resume people listing 9 or 10 volunteer things that they're doing. And I look at that and think they're too busy to go to work for me. So include volunteer information if it's to your advantage. And then use the reverse chronological order format, not a functional format. Hiring managers want to see your career progression in chronological format. And then the dates that you work for the company should be right justified, so it's real easy to read. The dates for multiple jobs within the company should not be. And we'll show you an example of how to do that. And then it's often good to use previous relevant experience to show older jobs if desired. And you don't have to put dates by those jobs. You can just list the company names and your titles just to show the full picture of your career. So those are my top resume tips. If you want to take a screenshot of that screen, you're welcome to. And these are the tips that have come up more often than others as I've been coaching people over the last few years and doing these sessions. So feel free to take a screenshot. And now we're going to talk a moment about the difference between a resume and a one-page bio. If anybody has a one-page bio, if you could type yes into chat, and if you've used it, tell us how you've used it as well. And I'm finding more and more as I'm working with people and they're wanting to get out there and do more networking, they're using the one-page bios more and more. Okay. So a resume really signals you're looking for a job. But if you're just reaching out to somebody at a company and you're wanting to get advice about your career, you may want to send a bio instead, because that just provides a little bit of courteous information about yourself so they can see information about you, but it doesn't scream, I'm looking for a job. Do you have a job opening for me? So it can be used in a variety of situations. I don't know if anybody has ever used a one-page bio in our audience today. And a resume focuses on your work history and credentials, but a bio focuses on accomplishments, overall accomplishments and expertise. And it can be a really good multi-purpose tool. And I'll show you 2 examples. Here's one example. I looked online for a good example of a one-page bio. They used to be called executive bios, but I'm seeing people at all levels using this. And I couldn't find a good format, but one of my career coaching clients had a format and he'd gotten really good feedback about it. So I asked him, could I borrow your format? And so I just plugged my information into it. And it's a simple Microsoft Word format. So it's really easy to update. And so we've shared it in chat and you're welcome to use this as you wish. So on a bio, you can use your picture because it's kind of a social networking document, not like a resume, which is an official job application document subject to employment law situations. You don't want to put a photo on here. But on a bio and on your LinkedIn profile, yeah, you do want to use your photo. And then here's a place where you can list your areas of expertise right up front. And then you can have a summary statement about your background and a brief synopsis of your professional history, your education, certifications, contact information. And then you can write statements about major accomplishments you've had relating to your areas of expertise. So this is one option. And here's another option that's more in a landscape format. And this is sometimes also called a marketing plan because it also has target companies. And so it has, your critical competencies, professional achievements, areas of expertise, contact information at the top, your professional biography, target functions, target job titles you're going after, and target companies. And you'll want to be careful about this list when you present it to somebody at a company. You may or may not want to list all of your companies. And if you do, you'd want to put their company at the top. You may or may not want to show the other companies you're looking for. That's a personal choice. I wouldn't, but some people do show all their target companies when they're networking. So it depends on the situation. So those are a couple of formats you can use. Does that make sense? Based on seeing this, do you think you'd want to add this to your list of documents that you have? If you think you want to create a one-page bio, type yes in the chat if you think you want to do that. I've seen more and more people do it. Good. And now, Jeff, I was wondering if you could share some words of wisdom with us about the concept of a master resume.
Well, I believe having a master resume makes your life a lot easier because what you've done is you go and you create a resume. It's 10, 15, 20 pages long with everything you've ever done in your career that's worthwhile. You put in lots of bullet points on each one, 8 or 10 bullet points of everything you did in that job. You put in your boss's name, you put in the address of the company, you put on all the details. And then when you see a job requisition or something that you're interested in doing, take that master resume, save it, and then delete everything that's not on the job description. Because if it's not on the job description, they don't care. And many, many times when somebody's reviewing resumes, they may not be like Carol, who's been doing it for 30 years, but it could be somebody who just got out of college and maybe doesn't even understand what the job title is or what the job involves, but they just know, here are my keywords, here's what they're looking for. You want to make it so easy that they can see that match. So
excellent.
That's why you should have a master resume.
Yes. And I'm finding more and more of my clients are doing that, where they have a master resume with all that information. So it's easy. So when they're filling out a job application, they can go get their supervisor's name and all that information. They've got it. And then sometimes what they'll do is create like a version, a customized version for, like, for example, if they're applying for project manager positions and have a resume that's maybe only 2 pages focusing on their project management skills. And then I've had some people that can apply for multiple jobs, maybe project manager or product manager. And then they'll create a customized, maybe 2-page resume for product manager. And then they can tweak it slightly based on the jobs they apply to. So yeah, it's a great idea. And then I see somebody has a 1-page bio that they use for networking and informational interviews. That's perfect. That's a perfect place to use a 1-page bio. And then somebody says, include all results, accomplishments per job. Maybe hard to remember those from years ago. Yes, absolutely. That's the reason to create a 1-page or a master resume. And now we'll talk about the characteristics of good resumes that you use when you're applying for a job. The goal is to make it easy for the ATS system and also for recruiters and hiring managers to see quickly that you're a good match for the job. When a recruiter is going through all the resumes in the system, how long do you think they spend looking at a resume? Go into chat and type in a number in seconds or minutes. How long you think a recruiter spends on average looking at a resume? I'll pause for just a moment. I definitely experienced this. And I still do, yeah. Okay. So it's definitely less than a minute, a lot less than a minute. Definitely less than 30 seconds, a lot less than 30 seconds. Somebody said 7.8 seconds. That's very, very close. I've read statistics that say 7.4 seconds. And I can attest to that. As a recruiter, if I had, again, 300 applicants, I might click on the top 10 or 20 resumes. I'd look at the top, I'd look at their title, I'd scan the first line of their summary, look at the key areas of expertise to see if it aligns to the job. I'd scan through the dates, and the companies they worked through to see their longevity and their career history. And I'd double check to see if they had the degree, if we needed a certain degree or software skills. I'd spend about 7 seconds. I used to say I'd spend between 5 and 10 seconds. And that's exactly right. Good, good. And I see that people are networking in chat. Feel free in the chat function, type in the job title that you're looking for and maybe 2 target companies and watch other people. And if you see people are trying to get into a target company where you know people, help each other out. So feel free to use the chat function to network. Just put your name, title, and a couple of target companies and help each other out. That's great. Okay. So characteristics of good resumes: formatting, less is more, lots of white space, keep it easy to read, overall length. The sweet spot's about 2 pages when I talk to recruiters. Now, if you have a highly technical background, if it goes on to 3 pages, that's great. And I was coaching somebody the other day applying for a government job, and their resume was 9 pages long, but that was appropriate for that situation because the government wants to see that level of detail. So, but for most corporate jobs, 2 to 3 pages is really kind of the sweet spot. Now, number of years, this is kind of a personal choice on a resume, and we'll give you a chance to answer a question here. And I'm curious, it's a very personal choice. How much experience do you show on your resume? A, do you show all of your experience? B, only the recent 10 to 15 years? Or do you show details about the recent 10 to 15 years and then maybe have an additional section that shows prior relevant experience? And thank you. People are answering these questions. Thank you. Good. Yeah, this is the typical mix. Typically, nobody shows all their experience. Funny thing is, I applied for a job at the age of 59 and a half, and I showed all my experience, but I was networking with people that knew me, and they knew I'd worked at ADS for a million years. And so it worked, and I got the job because I showed a lot of passion for the job, and I told them I asked them what they needed, and I provided evidence that I was the person to do what they needed, and I got the job as a recruiter, helping to recruit for HR people. And then as a recruiter, I would see option B a lot. And it looked like resumes were just kind of chopped off after 10 years. And then during interviews, people would refer to companies that weren't on their resume, and it would cause confusion, especially for the hiring manager. So I found option B kind of caused confusion. And so I found most hiring managers preferred option C, where they could see the most recent details, but then also see kind of the track record and the full kind of job history, where people showed prior relevant experience listed. Didn't have to be every single company they worked for, but a few key companies, especially if they may refer to them during the interview. And you don't have to put the dates in that section. Okay. Somebody says they use either A or C, depending on the recipient. Yeah, it can vary. So thank you for participating in that little poll. Now we'll talk through some of the key components of resumes. There might be other components like publications, certifications, but these are some of the key components that we'll talk through. Your heading. One thing I've really learned over the past year is what to do about your name. Because it used to confuse me when people would put their formal name on a resume and I didn't know what to call them. And I heard one of the other career coaches, I think in one of Jeff's sessions, I think it was on LinkedIn, use the name that you want to be called. And that makes it simple for recruiters and everybody. So on your resume and on your LinkedIn, use the name you want to be called. My husband's name is Joel Edward Brickell, but he goes by Ed. He would put Ed Brickell. Otherwise, every time you talk to a recruiter, they're going to go, okay, what should I call you? and so it just takes all that awkwardness out of it, and also makes you more memorable. So use the name you want to be called. And then put your contact information. You don't need to use your physical street address anymore. Use your closest major city, zip code if you wish, and a professional looking email address. Like mine is brickell.carol@yahoo.com, and they say gmail.com looks a little more current. And I don't use something silly like carollikeskittycats.com or anything like that. You want it to look professional, and also include your name so it's easy for recruiters to find your email address, and then in their emails, and then also include your URL to your LinkedIn profile. And then your summary section. As a recruiter, this is my favorite section. This is where you list the job title, especially if you're a business analyst applying for a business analyst job, put it there front and center. If you're making a career transition, you may need to finesse what that title is and maybe talk to a recruiter or career coach about that. And then you want this opening statement to be directed about explaining who you are in relation to what they're looking for in the heart of the job. So if in reading that job description, you can see the main part of that job is documenting business requirements and working with customers. You want to put that in your very first opening sentence. And then areas of expertise, I like to see about 9 of those, sometimes with highly technical jobs or like financial jobs. Sometimes people put 12 of them, and the top 3 across the top and in the first column better aligned to skills that are needed in that job. And you want to modify that every time you apply for a job. And then this is an optional section, especially for people who are applying for jobs where achieving targets is important, like sales, business development, even recruiting, or some financial jobs. You'd want to do this, especially sales and business development. And this is where you can show your track record, maybe over your career, that you've been able to achieve targets for the last 10 years. And you can summarize those things or any major awards that you've received. So this is very helpful for sales positions. And then in your professional experience, you want it formatted very cleanly, reverse chronological order. Make sure your verbs are parallel. This job in the past, all the verbs are in the past tense. This job that's still current, present tense, except for I achieved one thing, so I have that one thing in a past tense. And then many recruiters like to see a one-line description of the company, especially so they understand what industry you've worked in. And then limit the number of bullets per job. You don't want to list 10 or 15 or 20 bullets. Nobody will ever read those. Try to put 5 to 8 at the very most. And keep the bullets short, 1 or 2 lines, and focus on results. And has anybody ever heard me play the so what game? And this is a method of how to write your bullet points so you focus on results. If you've heard me play the so what game, type yes in the chat. Nobody's heard it. Okay. And this is a technique I learned in proposal writing, to ask the question, so what, so you can get deeper into something. So one time I was helping a marketing person with their resume, and one of their bullet points in their professional experience was pretty good. They guided the next phase of brand evolution for a multimedia artist. But I said, so what? What did that lead to? What did that accomplish? So what was the result? And then she said, well, it actually increased the business opportunities and it led to 10 new commissions for my client. So then she enhanced her resume to focus on the result and also the keywords of what that job description was looking for. So she rewrote that bullet to say she increased business opportunities, including 10 new commissions for her client, based on developing a full social media and PR strategy. She had done this work, but she just hadn't used that terminology that they were using in the job description. So she increased and enhanced the verb to make it stronger, to make it more of a result. And she did that by asking herself, so what? Okay. Now this is a good visual illustration. Something here. Okay. This is an illustration of how to show the dates at a company that you've worked for, especially if you've had multiple roles within the company. Because often I see resumes where people justify all of the dates, and then it looks like they're a job hopper. But if you've had multiple roles within a job, you want to put the full dates that you're with the company, and then put the dates in parentheses next to the job titles for the jobs you had within that company. And that tells a stronger story. It shows a progression. It shows maybe you were promoted within that company, and it makes it more clear. And it makes it look like you're not a job hopper. And you want to make sure to list your education and software skills, especially if the job description asks for software, even Microsoft Excel, put it on your resume. You'll get extra points about that. And if you don't have a degree, you can write something like this: a school, city, state, and maybe your major or area of concentration, or maybe the number of course hours. You don't want to say bachelor's if you have not completed your bachelor's degree. And this is one of my favorite graphics. Every time you apply for a job, you need to study the job description. On the left is a sample job description for a business analyst job. And again, you want to read the description to get at the heart of what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody who can document business requirements. So you want to put that front and center in your summary. And you also want to read through it, especially at the bottom of job description. They say, here's what you bring, or here are the qualifications, here are the requirements. Look for the methodologies and the software tools that they're looking for, and make sure you have those listed, like Visual Studio. I have that listed in software. Agile, Scrum, those are areas of expertise that I have, so I put those there. And then read through the rest of the job descriptions to pick out other key skills that they're looking for, and make sure that you're putting those on your resume. And this actually should only take about 10 or 15 minutes to go through, study the keywords, and update a few keywords in your resume. And that's extremely important. Okay. Now at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my presentation, and I'm going to share the resume that we had received. Share. Okay. So can you see that resume, Jeff?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great, good. Okay. If I turn on my chat function, we're good. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down this resume, kind of like a recruiter scanning through a resume, and this is audience participation here. I'd like you all to look at it, and if you see things that you like about it, type it into chat. If you see things that you would do to enhance the resume, go ahead and type it into chat, because we've been talking about a lot of formatting things here. So we've got the name. One thing I will say right off the bat, these things in boxes, an applicant tracking system will probably pick up that data, and it may even throw off the reading of all the data. So this is a nicely formatted resume for a hiring manager maybe to look at, but to apply online, the data may not get read very well. So I've got a tagline here, opening paragraph. I've got a little bit of a, like a, what do you call it, recommendation there. That's kind of neat. Professional experience. I'm going to getting a little bit of background noise if people can mute. Do a quick mute. Okay. Artist, awards. Oh, neat. That's neat to have awards. Education and licensing. Yeah, that's good. Good. All right. Yeah, the horizontal lines, that can cause issues with some of the applicant tracking systems. That's one of those things you might hear conflicting data. Just to be sure, I just take those out for the versions that I upload. Boxes, bold lines, and color may be an issue. I've even heard recruiters say, just use black and white text. Don't use blue or anything. So people are just wanting simple resume formats nowadays. I think about 10 or 15 years ago, people would say, add some color, add some wow, make your resume stand out. It's different now. Recruiters are just spending 7 seconds. They just want to read the text real quick.
This may be a good resume if you've already had a conversation with the person and they say, you send them a bio and now they're saying, well, yeah, send me your resume, and you have an idea, what they're looking for. I'm not sure if I would send this initially blindly without finding out a little bit more detail.
Yes, exactly. And the top part says, I'm confused about what you are as a person, beauty consultant, sales, marketing, strategy, team leadership. That's why, and then I see this tagline here, driving results through strategy. That causes seconds. I'm looking at all this, that I used up about 10 or 15 seconds trying to figure out, okay, what kind of person are you? So that's why people recommend just put the title. If you're applying for a makeup artist position, just put that at the top, because all these other words are making me wonder. So I'm not big on having these marketing kind of taglines at the top of a resume. It causes me to have to think, and it looks like a marketing tagline. I just want to know what kind of person you are and if you're the right kind of person for the job I have open. And now this is really cool. An Emmy award-winning makeup artist. So hopefully if you're applying for a makeup artist job, I mean, that is really cool. Well-networked in the industry, proven track record. And so these kind of words you can align based on what they're looking for.
You know, I don't know how necessary well networked in the industry is important. Those to me are words that doesn't tell me what you did. It just tells me you know a lot of people. And if I'm trying to buy your book of business, that would be one thing. But, you know, if you're trying to get a job, I don't think those words really mean anything. And also offering 20 plus years of extensive experience, just say offering extensive experience. You don't need to say 20 years.
Yeah, because what if they're saying they want 5+ years? Yeah, then you've kind of, yes. So good. And this blue thing with the recommendation, I typically don't recommend putting those on resumes, and it causes, again, the recruiter to have to stop and go, okay, what is this? And they lose time. And then these are good areas of expertise, but it's very hard to read. That's why I usually recommend columns. So again, less is more, so the words jump out a little bit better. And you want to make sure that the top 3 or so align with the job. So if you're getting a job as a makeup artist, if sales strategy isn't important, you wouldn't want to put that there. Marketing events. So you want these words to align with the job. Okay. Again, the blue text, I'd make that black text. The use of bold and not bold, I'm not big on that. From a writing best practice, it's basically telling the reader, I know you're not going to read this, I'm going to bold a few words. What you want to do is just make sure your bullet points are compelling and brief, so you don't have to use bold and not bold.
Well, once again, there was no results in there. Everything there is, this is what I had to do in a job description. So you got to play the so what game for every one of those bullet points. So you negotiated contracts. So what? What were the results? Did you cut your expenses? Did you get better terms? Did you get, tell me what you did to make me want you to do the same thing for me.
Right. And I see that this was actually professionally written, this resume. And I've seen a lot of people pay a lot of money to resume writers that will do all this formatting and write all this stuff, add the marketing taglines. And I end up having to work with people to redo them, to put them in words and terms that recruiters and hiring managers want to see. So this is a beautiful looking resume, but for your job search, you'll want to create a different type of resume that shows that you're aligned to the job that you're applying to. Yeah, so you probably spent some money on this. Okay.
There's one way, following up on what Jeff said, that when we're talking about increasing the budget, and not just saying that, but to say by 15% or something that shows, like he says, result.
Yeah, exactly. Show the results. Okay. Yeah, so this person's pivoting out of the makeup artistry and into a new position, so transitioning. So they rewrote your LinkedIn. You may want to talk to a career coach or recruiter about your transition and what kind of job you're transitioning to. Do you have those skills? You want to do some research, and you want to create a resume targeted to those kind of positions. So, okay. Yeah, so a beautiful resume, lots of great background, and you'll want to talk about transitioning with somebody. Read different coaches, okay? So, yeah, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can answer a couple quick questions on LinkedIn if you have gotten any conflicting advice or whatever. So, because it does look like you have some great background, and that is a beautiful document. I'm not sure it would get you a job. So, okay. Thank you so much for sharing this resume. It gives a lot of really good things to talk about. Okay.
Don't spend the key is don't spend any money on your resume. Take the template that we put in the chat window, take the other documents and sort of build on that. And you'll see you'll get, you've got to customize resumes. I mean, if you have a professional write your resume for you, you're not going to customize it every time you send it in. So by, having that master resume and then tailoring it to the job description, that gives you the best chance. And then making that phone call. Hey, I have the experience that you're looking for. Take a look.
And if you're transitioning to a different type of job, you really have to look at the requirements in those job descriptions to make sure you do meet those requirements. And if not, you may need to do some special projects so that you gain those skills. Like if there's certain software skills, or maybe you could do some pro bono work to gain some experience to show that you align to that new direction you're trying to go into. So it does take some work to do some job transition. And it takes some practice in the interviewing to be able to convince the hiring manager that you're the right person for the job if you haven't done exactly that job before. So.
Well, Carol, thank you very, very much. Here is Carol's LinkedIn profile. If you want to reach out to Carol, you're welcome to do so. Please remember that if you do so, please send a personal note. Let her know that you saw her today on Effective Resume Thursday, because I get requests every day. I've had 3 or 4 this morning and no one sent me a note. I don't know why we should connect. Give somebody a reason why we should connect with you, because that makes a big, big difference. So there's 2 different kinds of buttons on LinkedIn. There's a white connect button and a blue connect button. The white connect button sends that generic invitation. The blue connect button will always allow you to write a personal note. Okay, so Bill wants me to raise my right hand and repeat. All right, well, we do that on LinkedIn Tuesdays. We don't do that on Resume Thursdays. So you'll have to come back on Tuesday to raise the right hand and to say that. So Carol, thank you very much. Let's see here. All right, our next resume session will be on October 7th, on the first Thursday of October. There is 5 Thursdays this month. So on the 5th Thursday, we're actually going to have a special event coming up. So we'll be more information going out about that shortly. But our next resume session on October 7th, Locke Alderson will be with us. He's a career consultant. He's been in the business for 40+ years, and he's going to talk about how the resume is not dead. So join us on October 7th for that. If you did not download the sample resume, the 1-page bios, the sample T cover letter, if you need any of that information for those watching on Facebook, please just send me an email to resume@careerdfw.org, resume@careerdfw.org, and let me know what you're looking for, and I will get those documents to you. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. As I mentioned, this Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, our speaker is going to talk about fireproofing your career. How, once you get that job, how not to sabotage yourself into a new career. So a very interesting presentation. Join us tomorrow morning at 9:30. Next Tuesday for LinkedIn Tuesdays, Ruth Lipsky will be with us to talk about LinkedIn search engine optimization. Ruth works for Lee Heck Harrison, and she does some career coaching also, and very informative. It'll be a very informative LinkedIn presentation to make sure you get LinkedIn where it needs to be. Next Wednesday for Interviewing Wednesdays, we talk about interviewing every Wednesday. We'll be on session number 8, asking questions in the interview. Sessions 1 through 5 were before you get to the interview. Sessions 6 through 10 are what do you do during the interview. So how to get questions asked before they ask you, do you have any questions? How to try to interject some questions beforehand. Next Thursday, being the 4th Thursday of the month, our speaker will be Bob Maher, who's also a career coach, and he'll be talking about taking the chill out of cold calls. So this presentation is all about networking. How do you network? How do you reach out to other people, and what you need to be doing? This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel, click on playlist if you don't get there via that message. And then down below, you'll see the different playlists that I've put together. Don't click on the video, but down where it says view full playlist, then up will come a list of all the different dates and titles and topics. The newest one should be on top that you can go back and do. This presentation will be a couple hours before I get it up on the YouTube channel. It takes them a couple hours to get the video processed. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you found out about it through some generic way, you'd like to get an email, send an email to Career USA, the + subscribe at groups.io. What you'll get is 6 emails a week. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is every Sunday you get the career tip of the week. Every Monday, you find out about the upcoming sessions Tuesday through Friday. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you'll get 4 different emails with the title of the day, the topic of the day, and the Zoom link of the day. That way you don't have to look for it. You'll know exactly where it is. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Carol's a volunteer. All of our speakers are volunteer. I'm a volunteer. What I've done the last 13 years with this has strictly been as a volunteer. Career DFW, we survive on donations. Please consider making one when you land your next job. So thank you for joining us today. Carol, thank you much. It was great to see you today after a 2-month absence. And everybody else, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning or one day next week.
Thanks, Jeff. And thank you everyone for your participation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.